There's a time to be intolerant about making your own mistakes. And I'm starting the second time because I was being intolerant. I didn't want to start our Wake Up Epic practice today with a verbal faux pas. So, welcome to Wake Up Epic. And this is the gift of understanding. This is an embodied story of starting with cradle, so a sense of caring for and valuing what matters, and a sense of your agency. And so we're going to be exploring trust and understanding and forgiveness, and how do we hold space for you knowing the answers to the questions that matter to you without any judgment. So I'm Alex Iglesia, and I created Wake Up Epic to give us ways to find out for ourselves what's true. And so we're tapping into the fourth hexagram coming from the I Ching, or the fourth Human Design gate, which I'm going to touch on what the themes are from that perspective, or the fourth gene key from the gene key perspective. And we get to embody them. So you're going to walk away from today's practice having gone through the movement, the embodiment of these key gifts in your own life. And so I invite you afterwards to journal, to write into the comments, and definitely to explore in your own life how this comes alive for you. So we're starting with the embodied story of cradle, and that is to say we step back into our own experience, drop down into our embodied experience in contrast with our mental experience, and then we go wide, and this creates cradle. So in cradle, think of it like you're a great big tree. You're providing shade for someone who wants a bit of time out from the world. They're there to reflect and lean against your trunk. Meanwhile, you're rooted and drawing resources from the ground, and you're open to the sun and the sky and drawing resources there. You're able to provide something: shelter, safety, shade, resources. And that's one wonderful way to play with this cradle. Now that's the top of the hexagram. So this is like saying that in a world of shelter, in a world that is protective, in a world that feels safe, then we step into the bottom of the hexagram, which is like saying, I choose this. So we become narrow. We're back, we're narrow, and we're tall. And this is pillar. And in pillar, the idea here is you're like a pillar. You've got a sense of compression strength. You've got a sense of I can hold this. And if you're like most people, you are carrying burdens that are not yours to carry. And if you're like most people, you are avoiding or resisting burdens that are yours to carry. And somewhere in the two of those is what's yours to do. And so pillar gives us a way to contemplate, this is mine. This is mine to do. This is mine to be. So then what's the essence of moving back and forth between cradle and pillar and cradle? So try it a few times just with the body. And once the movement pattern makes sense, layer in, okay, we've got this shelter protective quality and this I can quality. In a world where I'm protected and held and safe, I can create, do, choose, become. So then what does this movement pattern, what does this hexagram teach us about understanding? In a space where we're in ourselves, we're not too concerned with the other, the rest of the world right now. Both cradle and pillar are self-focused. So in this space of I'm protecting, or I am protected, and I can do this thing, I can choose what's mine to carry, my path. What does that teach you about understanding or needing to be understood? Let's touch briefly on intolerance, the shadow of this being intolerance. What if you aren't safe, aren't protected, won't create a container? Imagine for a moment you're at a dinner and there's something you don't like. You don't want to eat it. So you say, no, I don't want that. There's a boundary there, and that might be the right thing to do. It might be a good choice. But imagine it's coming from a little bit of fear, like, no, that looks gross. No, I don't want to eat monkey brains. No, I don't want to eat fish, onions. And so there's a certain intolerance instead of a certain, I don't want that for my health, perhaps. Like, I have not had alcohol in over a year. I just said, I am someone who doesn't drink alcohol. And there's a certain tolerance that's part of what's driving that. I'm intolerant of how that makes me feel. I'm intolerant of when people are getting drunk and like wasting their time in life. So there's certain judgments that are driving that. And there's certain, what do I want for myself? How am I going to protect myself? How do I protect my energy? How do I honor my creativity? And so both sides, a little bit of intolerance, a little bit of understanding, give rise to, I just can do this. So what's the part of pillar that gives rise to intolerance? Well, imagine you can't. There's something that's yours to carry. Somebody asks you to do something and there's just, I can't, or I won't in it. What's something that you keep thinking you should do or could do, and you won't tolerate the challenge it's going to take? You won't tolerate the success you might receive. So imagine you can't tolerate, you can't say, hey, this matters and I can. Instead, it's like, no, I can't. I'm not going to tolerate what's really required. From a human design perspective, the fourth gate, the fourth gene key, is about the drive to find an answer. So imagine you are intolerant of what it's going to take for you to find an answer that matters. And because, of course, what's the question? So a few more times, cradle and pillar. For the sake of an answer that matters. What's an answer that you've been unable to answer? A question you've been unable to answer, or an answer you've just been unable to locate. And the final piece of content today is that from a UZAZU perspective, and we're using UZAZU to do this pillar and cradle, to just distill out the essence of these movements, we have a sense of supporting ourselves through the challenges of learning and skill building. So really interesting. If we just look at the movements and the dimensions, we get the challenge of skill building and learning. If we take it from the wisdom of the I Ching and the human design and gene keys, we have understanding and the drive to find an answer. So we're going to step into 5 rounds of activating this movement practice. So activating this pattern and this potential inside yourself so that you get a lot of reps in a short amount of time and really activate this in your life. Here we go. So starting with cradle, relax your mind a bit, enough to just drop into and let your body lead. Come into pillar. Back to cradle, and then repeat these words and feel free to modify them a bit for yourself. I can trust my capacity to learn and improve by doing. I can trust my capacity to learn and improve by doing. With your body, emphasize the protective, sheltering energy of cradle and the rising, stable power of pillar. I can trust my capacity to learn and improve by doing. The second activation, I can be patient and kind toward myself. While improving my abilities. I can be patient and kind toward myself while improving my abilities. There's something about that cliche of get out of your comfort zone. Cradle is our comfort zone. Where have we been in the comfort zone? Where can we get out of the comfort zone and be kind and patient while improving our abilities? Our third activation, I can be forgiving and accepting of myself when I make mistakes. I can forgive and accept myself when I make mistakes. Is there any mistake that you haven't yet forgiven and accepted? Our fourth activation, I can be patient and persistent in finding the ways that are right for me. I can be kind, patient, persistent in finding the ways that are right for me. Now for this fifth round, there's no activation statement. And I'm going to invite you to hold both parts of this hexagram at the same time. One arm in cradle, one arm in pillar. Legs are going to be a little bit split, kind of wide, kind of narrow. Find a good place. We're holding the sense of cradle with the shelter the compassion with the pillar, the strength, the responsible agency. Hold them both. See what becomes available. Take the next few breaths and prepare to step out of this practice. So get ready to complete. And as you drop your arms and you step forward out of all that self and sensing and acting, notice what's alive for you now. Our sixth round is about taking a moment to journal or express and distill the essence of what you experienced, or just what you're interested in, what you're inspired by now, what's happening and available. So if you are doing this on your own, this is a great time to journal, or draw, or speak out loud. And we're going to take a few minutes now to share what's alive. Marianne, how is that for you? What are you noticing?
I am noticing lots of things. There was something that about that I want to talk about later, maybe about the forgiveness that could come up and free that connection. Between like the caring can come with me, and the block of, oh, I made a mistake, oh dear, sort of stopped the care from coming up. And so when there was that energy of forgiveness, and when you suggested that we think of a mistake we made, and am I still holding on to that? It was like, yeah, and that can that can be released as I move into action, staying with my own self-care. And I don't mean self-care like spa, but I mean the energy of being with myself in that supportive way. So that was, I hadn't realized that I was sort of at war between care and action.
That's a great point. How are we at war with care and action? Yeah, there's a big part of what I've gone through over the years, and what I've seen in a lot of the communities, so the holistic and the practitioner and the healer, or even just the creative communities, more the healing communities than the creative communities, is so it's like, for example, there's synchronicity. I love synchronicity. I love meaning making. And I noticed that when I'm in a group of people and they're talking about synchronicity, like, oh, it's my birthday and I'm this, I'm this age, and then this number keeps showing up for me. Like, there's a part of me that's like will judge, like, why are you acting like a 6-year-old? It's like, and so there's an intolerance and there's a judgment to that. It's like, I don't care about the synchronicity story that you have. I'm interested in like what you're going through and what you want to accomplish. And is there some way, like, what's the value exchange here in the story? Don't just make me listen. And it's just something interesting about that. I don't know what that is, but there's something interesting at the level, we're here talking about intolerance and understanding and forgiveness. So thank you for bringing that up. Where are we at war with care and action? And one of the things that came up for me right now was selfishness. I was just noticing with the activation statements, especially the last one, ways that are right for me, patient and persistent in finding ways that are right for me. And I could just feel like a certain intolerance to finding a way that is right for me. Well, both of these, cradle and pillar, are both self-focused. They're both, ultimately, that could be in service of our family and gathering resources and creating things. But in the moment, they're both self-focused. So it's like, where am I intolerant and not understanding the value of selfishness, the value of, hey, everybody gets to find, or everybody has at least the potential, the right to find a way that's right for them. Where am I intolerant to finding the way that is right for me? Then the other thing I wanted to say that you inspired me about is forgiveness can often be a practice, right? It's a doing. And we do it for certain reasons and to get ourselves out of struggle and shame and challenging relationships. But if we look at it through Gene Key's perspective, then it's the city, it's the emergent quality. It's not the doing. We don't sit there and be like, now do forgiveness from the theme perspective. What we're doing here is we're going, okay, let me embrace the shadow. Let me look at the shadow of intolerance. Let me face it, look at it, not avoid it, so that I can receive, activate, live with the gift. Just as if you said, hey, here's a gift, and I go, no, I can't tolerate receiving. You go, no, receive the gift. And I go, okay. And I have to accept a lot of things. I have to accept that I'm worthy of the gift. I accept that you see my worth. Like, all sorts of things have to be accepted in order to receive. But then the emergent quality of that, the result in a way, is forgiveness. So how do things change, or what gets added, if we can look at something in our life that we're having some struggle with? So where am I intolerant? What am I not tolerating? Or what am I tolerating? Just so the whole world of tolerance. And then, can I shift to understanding? Oh, I can understand my mom did her best in this or that way. I can understand that there's violence in the world, and even though that sucks, and I'm not going to tolerate my own intolerance of violence in the world, because I want to balance. I want peace between my own care and action. And then what if we see or experience forgiveness as a resulting phenomenon that comes out of, I've received some understanding about this? And even if we look at like doing a forgiveness practice, like, okay, I'm going to picture someone and forgive them. Doesn't that lead to where my being intolerant of that person's existence, or being intolerant of that person's action, or something that I'm not tolerating in a judgy way, not because I chose to not tolerate it? That would be a choice. Like, I'm setting a boundary. I'm not tolerating this. But look at the difference between an unconscious intolerance and a conscious intolerance. That's a boundary. No, I can't handle that. No, that's wrong. All the reactionary or judgy or egoic intolerance. Or, I understand what's going on here. I understand my own reactions. I understand that this may or may not benefit me. I understand that that's not my path anymore. So through understanding and accepting the gift of the understanding that that is not my path anymore, that is not my way. And boy, that I've been lying and being dishonest about it. But I'm not anymore, because now I have understanding. So now I'm choosing not to tolerate that anymore. I'm choosing to forgive myself for that. I'm choosing a boundary or a choice that's not coming from, oh my God, fear reaction. And I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to create a container. And that is not acceptable because I have forgiven myself and I love myself and I shelter myself to allow myself to carry what's mine to carry, to do what's mine to do. So that's where I'm at with this at the moment. Marion, anything else you want to say to finish us off and complete us?
I can't complete us, but for me, there's much more to explore for the whole point of intolerance, because as you were speaking, I could feel emotion coming up and reaction, and it's a new idea for me to have intolerance be sort of part of the juice, part of the material of Cradle. And so there's a lot here for me to keep exploring.
Fantastic. Last thing with that, I so appreciate that. Like, so the invitation I'm going to make for everybody is like really explore intolerance and just dive in. Stop tolerating your intolerance for intolerance. And one thing I didn't say was that the archetype that goes with this hexagram is the philosopher. And super overly reductionist. What do we know philosophers do? They seek and name truth and understanding, and they're intolerant of inconsistencies. So there's something very interesting there. And I've never thought about a philosopher from the perspective of forgiveness. So more to play with. Thanks for waking up, Epic. I hope that the four and the practice of the four brings something brand new and amazing to your life. And thank you for being the gift of understanding. Until next time in Wake Up Epic, thanks for being epic.